Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Health Coaches Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Kevin Davis, and I'm joined by the other one.
Howard Jacobson.
How you doing today, Howie?
Tired, tired, but hanging in there. And I've instituted a couple of new food rules for myself.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that are, and saying them out loud helps. I just have to remember what they are. Well, one of them is like white flour pastas were creeping into my diet because we have all these beautiful basil plants, and so there's pesto, and other people in my household eat it. So I had to make a rule about no.
Yeah.
Um, and the other one is I stop eating by 5 o'clock, and then I brush my
Uh,
teeth so I don't feel like eating anymore.
oh, I love the brush your teeth trick. It's like the best way to ensure that I'm going to stop eating.
Yeah, it's a great example of an incompatible behavior.
Yeah.
Right. Because people, we ask
Yeah.
people like, well, what are you going to do? And they'll say, well, I won't do something. I won't do this. I
Right.
won't go on Instagram. And of course, the impulse is there and it's always
Mm.
conditioned and triggered by something. So unless you have another path to follow, it's almost impossible to simply refrain.
Right. Yeah. No, it's interesting because we're just talking about, hey, what's going on with Howie? And the topic that you kind of, are brushing the edge of there is what I wanted to talk about today was to talk with you about what to do when clients aren't taking action and
Mm.
some tactics that we can do to get them moving on stuff. And, you basically said right there, hey, you know, one of the things that I wanted to do was to stop eating, as late in the evening. And instead of having to take action in a way of not doing something, you found a trigger, a method that's going to stop you kind of automatically
Right.
in a way.
But yeah, but I do have a whole bunch of things that are in that other category. Like I'm just not
Yeah.
doing them. Now I happen not to be working with a coach on any of them. And like that's the first clue. Like I know a lot of coaches, right? I've trained a lot of coaches and I've been trained by a lot of coaches. So there's a lot of people I could call up and say, help me with this. So that,
Yeah.
like there's an initial impetus to action that very often hiring a coach or working with a coach or joining a program is already the thing that gets people moving. But we see all the
Right.
time that people that they get excited, but you know what? Oh, I didn't realize how busy I was going to be. I read your sales letter and it looked exciting. I read your book and I really bonded with you, but week after week,
Yeah.
I'm not really doing anything. And as coaches, we
Yeah.
can get really frustrated. And as clients, they don't understand. So yeah, so I would love to talk about what we can do because there's the main thing as coaches or as consultants, the main definition is we have zero power,
Right.
right? If I'm your
Yeah.
manager, I have power. If I'm your spouse, I have power, right? I have the
Hmm.
power to make your life better or worse.
Well, and in fact, part of that is because of how we define coaching and what we're trying to, the way we're trying to explain it here and to teach to people is to take away our power purposefully. Even when they want to give us that power and put it on us, part of our purpose is look, this is something that they need to do and they need to have some autonomy here. And if we have that power, then we're actually taking away. We may help them today, but we're not helping them down the road.
Right, right. Um, so I'll throw it to you. Like, when you work with people, or when you have been the person being worked with, and you don't take action, like we do a good coaching session, we come up with the, we identify the options, we choose an option, and they contract, and we say, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and then they come back in a week or two and they haven't done it. What are some of the things you see that are causal of that? So before we try to solve the problem, let's try to see if we can diagnose it accurately.
Yeah, not enough fast assessments.
All right. So, have we talked
But
about fast assessments yet?
I don't know if we have on here, but anybody that we've worked with. So fast assessments, it's something that we always make clients do. and especially there was a time when a lot of the clients were going, just they knew automatically how he's going to ask them if they've done a FAST assessment as soon as they bring something up. What that is just a way of having them stop and look at what happened in a current or in a situation. Can be good, can be negative. So let's say the plan was, I'm going to stop eating at 5 p.m. this week. And the client, or let's say Howie's the client here, Howie comes back and he says, hey, I didn't do it. We could ask Howie, let's go to that moment. Did you do a FAST assessment? Can you discuss what you were feeling, acting, sensing, thinking, all of the things that were going on for you in the moment when you went ahead and ate, even though it was after 5?
Right. Okay. And yeah, so what that can do is it turns the failure into information.
Yeah.
Right. Because failures are failures when we don't profit from them. Right? When we just sort of let it go by.
Right. Well, it probably helps that my background is in exercise so much, but I love to think of this stuff as building muscles for whatever we're trying to do. So to me, that moment where you eat after 5 or whatever the case may be, it's an opportunity to build the stop eating at 5 muscle.
Hmm.
And so that FAST assessment, if you were to just leave it alone and not even think about it and just blow past it and be disappointed in yourself and continue on, and you don't grow out of that, you don't get any strength out of it. But doing the FAST assessment, now you go, okay, I ate after 5. I was not able to, compare it to a squat, right? I wasn't able to squat that much weight, So what can I do to make it a little bit easier for myself, but still challenging, to help build that muscle so I'm prepared to stop eating at 5 in the future?
Right. But in a lot of ways, though, it can feel like somebody goes to the gym every day, walks through the door, swipes their card, heads straight for the shower.
Yeah.
and then walks out, and they're like, no, I still can't lift that weight. And they're like, well,
Right.
duh, you're not trying to lift the weight.
Yeah.
So
You didn't even get under the bar.
So one of the things that I ask people to do is, we're always going for perfection, right? We're aiming for perfection, because only when you aim for perfection can you learn from your deviation from perfection. So in other words, if I want to learn to shoot arrows, and I just sort of take, I'm pantomiming for the audio listeners, like drawing back the bow and letting it go and not even looking, like just behind me. I can do that 1,000 times and I won't receive any feedback on the gap between aim and outcome. And so we ask people to aim for perfection always, and then use the gap, the difference, the delta between perfection and what they do to learn from. And so, so that's like the rule is, if you never let a mistake go by. But I frequently work with people who let mistakes go by all the time, and they're like, oh yeah, I forgot to do the FAST assessment. Yeah, I didn't really feel like it. And just, for people who have no idea, FAST assessment is something we got from Peter Bregman, who's one of my coach teachers. And it stands for what were you feeling? How were you acting? And we changed it a little bit. The S is what were you sensing in your body, like a physical sensation. And the T is what were you thinking? So basically, a slowdown and freeze frame of that moment where you made one choice and could have made a different one.
Yeah.
So when people don't do FAST assessments, what do we do?
Do it for them.
Okay. Yeah, in the moment, we'll take them through it in the coaching session.
Yeah. Well, and so often for myself, again, we've talked about this, like I do a lot of the kind of text. I'm emailing with people or texting with people. And so it's kind of a slower process, but I am there to kind of nudge them and remind them to do it the next time. But I also try to ask them to take me back to that moment, even if it's not going to be a true, in the moment FAST assessment, to try and have them take me back and describe the moment, or give me the movie. If you were to show me the movie of that moment, like what happened, what was around you, even if there are details that you don't think are relevant.
Right. Now, something else. So if someone is resisting the FAST assessment, there's two things I do.
Mm-hmm.
One is, and I discovered this late, yeah, is I start giving them FAST assessments that are like fun fasts.
Yeah.
Like to do a FAST assessment on something you did well, so that we're associating the practice with pleasure and not only
Mm-hmm.
with the failure and the shame of it.
So it's not, oh God, fast assessment. No.
Right. We were hearing, AFA, AFFA, another fucking FAST assessment
All
from
the time.
from our coaching clients at WellStart. I was like, oh God, I got to do this. So it was like, okay, he's going to make me clean the floor with a toothbrush again. It was just unpleasant.
Yeah.
So begin by associating it with pleasant things. Like, great, tell me about a time you succeeded. Great, let's freeze frame there. Right. The second thing I'll do is much more meta, which is, so the person has not done their FAST assessments and they're feeling a little bad about it. And I'll bring it up like, well, let's do one now. And you see their face and you hear their tone of voice. Like, okay. And what I'll do is do a FAST assessment on the doing of a FAST assessment. As in, okay, Kevin, when I just said to do a FAST assessment, what happened? What did you feel?
Yeah,
What were you thinking?
felt tight. I felt pressured.
Yeah. And what was the thought that went through your head?
Fuck no. Not another one of these.
Yeah.
No, it's, oftentimes, what it brings up then is that feeling of, like I said, sort of pressure, sort of shame that that where this is going is that you've not done something, or particularly when we were only doing them on negative situations.
Yeah.
That would be the case.
Yeah. So one thing the FAST assessment can do is can reframe the not done something to I tried something and now I'm going to learn from it. So it can take a little bit of the sting out.
The term, turn a bad day into good data is always, it's kind of a mantra that we repeat over and over again. And it really does. I mean, it takes that, sort of failure, right? That lack of doing what we set out to do and turns it into something to learn and grow from. It's a scientific experiment, really, right? And what is science other than coming up with ideas, trying them out, failing 1,000 times until we succeed with something that is incredibly helpful.
Right, absolutely. So the FAST assessment is like the principal tool for avoiding the two unhelpful responses to a failure, right? One unhelpful response is to ignore it, and the other unhelpful response is to beat yourself up over it. So the FAST assessment becomes the tool for curiosity and generative creativity. Right? So when people aren't doing it, we practice with them in the session. We ask them to do it, and we practice with them to do it over something good. And sometimes people still don't get any traction with us. So one of the things, so what you said something earlier that I just want to highlight about this idea of the muscle. Like if you can't do the squat with this much weight, then try it with less weight. So frequently, the reason people aren't doing something is because they are type A overachievers, and the thing they said they can do is actually beyond their capability. But they're saying it out of, a desire to impress you, out of a desire to impress themselves, out of a desire to live up to an identity.
Striving for perfection.
Yeah. Very, very often we have to give people permission and explicitly instruct them to lower the bar way the hell down. So if they can't, all right, so you're not doing people don't want to give up the things they can't do. It's like, no, this week I'll do it. This week I'm going to do it. And we see this in WellStart comments in the forum all the time that people, what's your daily do? I'm really going to focus this week.
Yeah.
right? As opposed, so when we give them permission to like, okay, you have failed at this thing for 6 weeks, let's find something you can succeed at.
Mhm.
And after a certain amount of time, they often come around.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, oftentimes it's like they want to not only set a bar high, but set too many bars too high at the same time. There are several aspects of changes that you can make for life change. There's all of the aspects of movement, all of the aspects of mindset work, all of the aspects of food and sleep, and all these things that you can work on. And if you try to set yourself a high bar in every single one of those categories on day one, that's a lot to do.
Yeah, that's
you know
yeah, that's a symptom. It's a type of fixed mindset where what
Mhm.
I want to do is be something as opposed to become something.
Oh yeah, I love that
Right.
term for it too, the becoming something.
Yeah. So again, so it's an invitation for people to explore their own motivation, and we hear it when we coach people. We'll hear in their language their resistance to not being good at something.
Right. Well, the
Um,
thing that keeps coming up for me when you talk about the striving for too high of a bar is just letting people know that it's okay to be a C student,
mhm.
right? They're all striving for an A plus 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 and do everything 100% perfectly. The reality is, what C's earn degrees, right? Isn't that the saying? Become a C student, and you're on the upward trend. You're improving. It may not be as fast of an improvement as 100% perfect, but it's achievable, and it's a great place to start, and it's going to be long-term success.
Right. Yeah, and I would say like the main thing that I see that keeps people from getting traction, from taking any sort of action,
Mm-hmm.
they're not even generating failures, right? They're just sort of in stasis. Is they're too busy.
Yeah,
They have
yeah.
they have other things in their lives, and this is not a priority. And so one of the things I will do after a certain amount of time, so I will feel my own gorge rise, like I will feel my
Mm-hmm.
frustration with them. And I am self-aware enough most of the time to not like leak it out, but that will be a signal for me to be a little bit bold and to challenge them for their own sake and for my sake as well, as a coach who's wasting his time. Right? So sometimes I'll say, well, listen, um, it's it's possible that this isn't that important to you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Which is a nice form of permission, because if I'm the coach, then obviously I think this was the most important thing in their life.
Yeah,
Right? So to say, is it possible that this just isn't that important? And sometimes they will, fight back, in which case you've got a whole new barrel of energy to work
mm-hmm.
from. Well, why is it important? And then we can help then talk them, into choosing something reasonable as a low hanging fruit, or they'll say, yeah, it kind of isn't. Like, so to be a C student, like you want to get an A in life, right? And
Right.
that means if you try to get an A plus in every aspect of your life, you are optimizing mostly the wrong things.
Mm. Yeah.
Right? There's a saying in sort of like Jocko Willink and tough guy, like excellence in everything people that or like Jordan Peterson, like how you do anything is how you do everything. Like if
Yeah.
you want to be an excellent person, then the way you brush your teeth, the way you wash a dish, it's all got to be with everything you've got. And there's some truth to not wanting to get into the habits of sloppiness and absence and
Mm.
lack of focus. But my God, if you're trying to be the best at everything, then you're not making discerning choices about the priorities in your life.
Right. Or you're not sleeping.
Right, in which case you're getting an F in sleep.
In sleep, yeah.
Right. So one way to help people is, okay, they are really busy. This isn't their top priority, but neither is brushing their teeth their top priority, but they do it anyway. And they do it at a level that is satisficing as opposed to optimizing. So we can work with them to let's satisfy your health. I know you see me, or I wrote a book, you think I'm, at this level and I need you to be at this level. What level can you sustain? And once you get there, of course, that will increase your capacity to sustain other levels as well.
I think that's a kind of a good point there too, is you're kind of giving them permission to find a level that is realistic and start there. I mean, I like to use the example, if it comes to that discussion, of what happened with myself, losing the weight and making these lifestyle changes. I didn't just go from where I was at to where I'm at now overnight. It was, okay, initially I started walking. I started making minimal changes to my diet. Then 3 months later, I added a little more and I did a little more activity. And it was, so there's these stages of improvement that get you to the place you want to be. And just giving the permission that, for example, we obviously work with people a lot on a whole foods plant-based diet. You don't have to go 100% whole foods plant-based, no anything other than that on day one. And in fact, maybe your goal never is to be 100%. Maybe you're going to have some oil or some whatever that thing is. You know what I mean? Let's, let you choose that. But day one certainly is not the time where you have to be at your ideal.
Yeah. So as coaches, I think one of the things that's very useful for us to do early on is to tell our clients that this is not school, right? That we are not their teachers. Right, because I remember, I was a grade grubber, so I needed to get good grades through, high school, college, and one of the ways you get good grades is by fooling the teacher into thinking that their class is the most important class in your life. Right, and they all think that, right? Yeah. Like in high school, none of them ever talked to each other. They all gave us too much homework, and so we all had to decide, which one are we going to phone in, which one are we going to be okay getting a poor grade in, which one do we really care about? We're going to study this, even after we've gotten the A, we're so interested in it. And so we have to, as a coach, people bring all their past relationships to it. And for a lot of them, it's oh, you're like the teacher. You're teaching me how to do a thing. And so there's all sorts of permissions we can give people. Like in school, teachers don't want kids to cheat to get good grades. We want our clients to cheat the hell out of everything, right? Whatever works, whatever gets you the results you want is totally legal. Work with a friend, call a friend, have a meal delivery service, whatever, right? There's no extra points for extra effort.
When you're talking about this school or this working with a teacher analogy, the thing that comes to mind for me is the concept that in school, you're, like you said, being a grade grubber, you're trying to get a grade on a test. And so you can just cram it in and just really bust your butt for a week or a few hours and pass that test and then forget everything and just brain dump. And that's kind of the opposite of what we want to do as well. We want people to take their time. If you need, instead of having the test be a week from now, and you just cram it all in, if you need a year instead of a week, that's great if you really learn it and instill it and can continue that knowledge or that benefit on throughout the rest of your life.
Yeah. I just felt like pulling off my calculator and calculating how many hours I spent learning stuff in school. So including graduate school, that was 20 years of, let's say, 5 hours a day of education, 180 days, less in college and grad school. But how many tens of thousands of hours, 20,000 hours. And I can read, I can do math, but I don't remember shit. Yeah. I took history classes. I took biology classes. I don't have any content knowledge.
Right.
From any of those experiences. And yeah, so, the process knowledge is the important stuff.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, because in a way, that overall learning that you did for all those years, taught you how to learn and taught you how to do certain things. And that's kind of what we're really driving at as a coach, is we're trying to teach our clients how to maintain a healthy lifestyle, not how to recite a bunch of information about how many calories are in a gram of protein, or, you know what I mean? Whatever those facts might be.
Right. So yeah, that brings one other thing. Like, I was a school teacher for many years, and I hated grades. I hated grading. I hated giving grades, because it turned a pure activity of seeking knowledge and self-improvement into a game in which people were trying to, get by. And so I was the 8th grade commencement speaker at the private day school where I taught for the year after college. And I talked about, I want education to be more like ultimate Frisbee. So ultimate Frisbee was invented in my high school, Columbia High School, Maplewood, New Jersey, in the late 60s. And it was like the hippiest sport ever. So one of the stipulations was there's a rule called spirit of the game, which means if everyone's not having fun and being respectful, the game is not a legal game. Like, you can't go and like be angry at each other and be trying to win above the pleasure of the game. The second rule was there are no referees, no lines people. The players call their own fouls, right? So if you're, let's say basketball, you're driving and I foul you, in a real basketball game with referees, I'm going to try to do it so I can get away with it. With no referees, I have to call it. And in ultimate Frisbee, if you foul people, and they can call it too, but if you're arguing a lot, you're ostracized. You're seen as
right.
And so this idea of like call your own fouls was so important to me as an educator. Like, show me your mistakes so we can fix them, rather than trying to brush them over, comb them over, hide them, so that you walk out into the world with these deficits. And so for me, coaching is all about helping people, call their own fouls.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. I
Makes
like that. Now my wheels are turning here.
Makes me miss ultimate Frisbee, which I haven't played since February, since nobody can touch anybody anymore.
I know. You're like the grand wizard of the universe or something in it, right? Isn't that the tournament to decide the grand wizard of Frisbee?
Well, we're the great grand masters, because we're so old.
Grand wizard, that's what I said.
Yeah. This is not a racial hate group. This is a Frisbee team.
You're the Gandalf of ultimate Frisbee, right?
All right. I think we've. Do you have any final thoughts before we put this one to bed?
No, actually, I kind of love the ending point there, because you really did kind of put some thoughtful insight there at the end that maybe people can think about and give us a little feedback on.
Whew,
hop on Facebook or shoot us an email. Or
I'm glad I got there in the end.
Yeah, way to go.
I thought this whole conversation was going to be shit, but then at the end you saved it.
It came out.
Oh dear. All right, man. Yeah. People, email, text, Facebook, comment on.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you. The comments. Yeah, we'll have it on the website where you can comment and discuss. And we'd love to hear any feedback. And again, as we've said before, any questions that you've got or topics that you'd like to hear for other future episodes would be wonderful.
Yeah, and if you just forward this to 256 other people, and each of them forward it to 256 other people, that's like 65,000 people. So that'd be great.
That's a lot of counting. It's a good thing Howard has his calculator out. So I guess that means forward it to 256 people, and we will say thank you next time.
Yeah. Or one. One is good too.
Yes. Anyone you can share it with or pass it along to would be wonderful. Cool. So thanks so much for listening, for everybody that stuck around with us through this whole thing. And we will talk to you next week.
Cool. Take care.
Thanks, Howard.